Hi, I'm Cassidy.
And I'm Lindsay.
Welcome to the Meraki podcast. Meraki is a Greek word that means the act of doing something with soul, creativity, or love, to put something of yourself into your work.
This podcast is for fellow photographers to encourage, inspire, and build community in the photography industry
with an ultimate goal to reflect Christ through our words and businesses.
We are inviting you into our weekly coffee dates where we talk all about our hot takes, interview other creatives who inspire us, and share our hearts with you.
Our coffee will be bold, and probably our conversations too. So pour yourself a cup, get cozy, and join us for this week's episode.
Wait, are you guys drinking coffee right now? This is essential.
No.
We'll have water.
Okay, that's okay. I'm drinking coffee. I'll represent.
Well, I just had coffee at the when we went for Tori and I went for lunch. But I'll tell you what I had. I had what was it? Vanilla rose cappuccino.
Vanilla rose?
Yeah. And it was delish.
Did it taste like a lot like rose? Do you know what rose tastes like?
I have had like rose lattes before.
Yeah.
A little bit. I'd say the vanilla was stronger though.
Yeah.
Still good.
Tori, do you drink coffee?
I do. Yeah.
I'm so happy for you.
You're not allowed to podcast unless you drink coffee.
I'm like fruit flavors with coffee kind of person.
Like, whoa. Okay, so like
blueberry, peach, coconut, like sign me up.
Coconut.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know we've talked about blueberry coffee. I'm remembering this conversation now.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've been doing a coconut dirty chai like basically every day for the past few weeks, and that is
wow.
That actually sounds really good.
Yeah. I had it at coffee shop.
Iced or hot?
Iced.
Yeah, I feel like it makes sense iced. Yeah.
That sounds so good.
Yeah.
I love that. I've never heard someone say like I like my coffee with fruit flavors. Like
yeah,
I love that.
Did you say pistachio? I know it's a nut, but Starbucks was doing that for a little bit.
Yeah.
I talked about Lindsay's arch nemesis again.
Yeah. Well, have you been to Twin Valley Coffee?
Yeah.
They do like the
blueberry
lemonade, and they have blueberry, and right now they have peach.
Peach coffee.
Yeah.
See, some of that is weird to me though.
No, like peaches and cream, like peaches and cream, or like if you add cinnamon, it's like peach cobbler. Like
with coffee,
like
too,
anything that you can make into a pie or like a cobbler works with coffee.
That's a rule of thumb.
Yeah.
Wow. I don't know. I'm a skeptic. I don't know.
Fruit coffee. I know. Actually, this is one of the most important podcast topics.
It's definitely an iced thing, like iced.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. Okay. That's probably my problem because I was envisioning them all hot, and I'm like,
yeah,
hot peaches.
I know.
I like peach pie.
I can do like a raspberry white mocha hot. That's good.
Okay. This is making
I can get that.
Adding in chai or adding in chocolate, like the mocha, makes more sense to me than just doing like espresso and raspberry. That'd become weird.
Yeah, it's always like with cinnamon or like chai or like some sort of like
no, it's making more sense.
Or yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
We support now.
I can get behind that.
And I can only have blueberry coffee on family vacation with my husband's family because, I feel like, Tori, I think it was a few weeks ago, you posted the blueberry, is it Old English, the brand or something?
Or New England coffee or something.
I've had their blueberry coffee.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
So my husband's family loves like flavored coffee beans, and I was always very against flavored coffee beans. And but we went to Maine as a family, like I think it was in 2021, so a few years ago, and they brewed blueberry coffee the entire time, and like Maine is known for their blueberries, and it was blueberry season. And now they still then to this day bring blueberry coffee that whatever the brand is, I just already forgot it, to family vacations, and then the only time I'll drink it.
Oh, that's authentic, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's legit. And the smell brings me back to Maine every time. So,
Aw, that's fun.
I feel like it could be a song. Blueberry coffee in Maine.
There's a lot of songs.
You got to get Noah Khan on that.
I was gonna say,
exactly.
Right? Yeah.
States that are coming out now, mostly Noah Khan.
Blueberry coffee. Yeah, that needs to be the title of it. A whole album actually needs to be called fruit coffee.
Okay, we should probably like do the podcast intro. Like say hello.
We can't just start the podcast with all our little coffee chats.
We have to say hello. We have to be like, hello, welcome back.
There you go.
I know this is always the hardest part for us.
Yeah.
You do it, Cassidy.
Ending
I'm
it.
suddenly so nervous.
It's really beginning.
The nerves do kick in when I have to be like, act like our intro displayed, and then be like, welcome back to. I know we always say it wrong. The Meraki.
Yes, I said it wrong the other day. I'll give you a countdown, and you start it, Cassidy. 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back to the Meraki Photo Podcast, episode 10.
I don't remember what episode this is.
I was doing good. Oh my gosh.
That was perfect. Let's keep it.
Yeah, okay.
But what episode are we on? This is 7. Okay.
Oh, I lied. Technically, 7 came out today. This is 8.
We're already on 8 episodes. That's actually wild.
I know. We've been out for a month. Over a month now.
Over a month now. Yay! Oh my gosh, that's actually so crazy to
That
me.
doesn't feel real to me.
Not one bit. Not one bit. Well, we are so excited about today's episode because we have Tori joining us today from Tori B Photography, right? Yes. And we're so excited to ask her all the questions and dive deep into her business and why she loves what she does and how she does it so beautifully. So,
Yeah. Woo woo. Tori,
Yeah.
hello.
Gosh, you guys are gonna make me cry.
You're like,
we cannot, the rule is on this podcast, you can't cry until 10 minutes in.
yeah.
Okay.
Did you know that? Oh my god.
Once we start talking for 10 minutes, then you're allowed to start tearing up.
I'd be surprised if you made us cry.
Okay, I'm not gonna try
That's not
to.
the goal. No, that's not. Unless we're laughing so much that we cry, that's allowed.
That's okay. That'll be acceptable at 2 minutes, yes.
But why don't we just start with the super easy, tell us about yourself. Everyone hates that question. Specifically, tell us who you are behind the camera when you're not holding a camera in your hands, a little bit about your life, and then we'll jump into the business.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's not an easy question.
No, everyone
It's like the worst question ever. But I'm Tori. I'm the owner of Tori B Photography. I've been in business for 3 years now. I started in the spring of 2021. I also have my associate's degree and I'm a physical therapist assistant. So I do that 2 days a week. I've been married since November of 2022. So I also have a cat. And that's about it. I don't have any time for anything else.
I didn't know
That's
you were
a lot.
a therapy job.
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
Still 2 days a week. So I did that like full time
Yeah.
the first year that I was in business. And then the second year I scaled back to
I
2
remember
days.
that decision
Yeah.
to like pursue to pursue photography full time.
Right. Yeah. So
Was
that's like my side gig now.
Yeah.
And photography is the full time.
That's crazy.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
it's still good to get out of the house.
Yeah.
4 days a week. So I do like the balance.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's nice. And you can say you still use your degree, which really makes people feel better about that money.
Yeah, that's part of it too. But I do really enjoy like where I work and that the place where I work has been a godsend. So
Oh wow.
I'm happy to be there.
That's
as
cool.
well.
That's also just a practical skill. Like sometimes I wish that I knew how to like take care of my muscles, especially as a wedding photographer. You're like
Yeah.
sore the next day, but you can do your own. Do you feel like you literally give yourself physical therapy exercises?
I mean, I know what I need to do. I just don't do it. My posture is still the worst. Ergonomics
Okay,
on.
that makes me feel better about myself then.
Yeah, it's literally the same.
Yeah.
I have like this
I,
pillow I'm supposed to use every day, and I don't.
yep.
My neck.
Yeah, that's the worst. It's the forward head. But,
Yeah. Yeah.
Shoulders from like the harness too.
Yeah.
Yeah. My sister-in-law is a PTA as well. And I feel like it was last summer. I my hands started like my fingers were going like tingly because I was editing so much, and I reached out to her and she gave me the most incredible like carpal tunnel stretches. And they work so well. And ever since then, I was like a very firm believer in the power of PT. Because like
Exercises.
everyone talks about like going to the chiropractor and, things like that. But I feel like PT is like definitely like it really helps long term too.
It does.
Yeah, no, the chiropractor is great, but it's kind of more
Yeah.
of a quick fix, and
Yeah.
he gives you the tools to like fix it and also maintain that over time. So
You just have to be like diligent. Like you're
Yeah.
but it's so easy to not be,
right, yeah.
which is why the chiropractor makes money.
So true.
Okay. Tell us about now your business side of your life. So what's like your favorite thing about, because you mostly do weddings. You'd say that's your
Yeah.
main thing. So what's like your favorite thing about being a wedding photographer? If you had to pick like top reason you love it.
That's I feel like there's so many things though, and like
Yeah.
a lot of different reasons, but I think I just enjoy the connection so much, like the personal connections and just being involved with couples in that way and just being able to invest in people as well.
Yeah, which is
Yeah.
so sweet. I thought that was like the norm, but I'm like that kind of approach to photography because that's how you approach it. That's how I approach it. That's how Lindsay approaches it. But the more I'm learning, like, that's actually not the norm. It's
Yeah,
actually really unique.
it's so rare. Like, I had a couple tell me the other day, they were like, you were the only one who actually seemed excited about our wedding day that we inquired with. I'm like, that's like so sad. Like that not every like vendor is like just so excited for the couple.
Yeah.
That's not the
One of the
standard.
things that stands out to me about your business that I want to dive into, like, probably a little bit more later, but I feel like through because you share your heart a lot in your stories and captions on Instagram. And I feel like your perspective that's been so like I don't want to say anti-industry, but
Yeah.
you're like, no, I am anti. Like, I just see you have what you word things very eloquently. And you also have that perspective that pushes back against a lot of industry things that are all about the business, the money, whatever, whatever.
Yeah.
And that's always like inspired me about how you approach photography and Instagram.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like when I was first getting into the industry, like I obviously didn't know a lot except from what I saw from the outside looking in. So I definitely had like a lot of feelings about the way certain things were based on like consumerism and just how commercialized it was. And obviously I've learned a lot and like changed a little bit in my thinking being in it now and having a business, but I feel like more people need to be focused on what matters most because there's just like so much going around about like things that are more superficial and just things that will just cost extra money and trends and things like that. So I just try to keep it as real as possible and say what I think because nobody is going to start talking unless someone says something.
No, literally.
Yeah.
Do you think planning your own wedding in the midst of also as you were rising as a wedding photographer, like helped that mindset too?
Kind of, I think so. Because that was still like really early on in my career. That was my like the end of my first wedding season is when I got married.
Okay.
So I knew some things, but I definitely didn't know everything. And yeah, I don't know. I think one of the biggest things I found is like how inaccessible pricing is to people.
Yeah.
Like for anything, like for venues, for other vendors and things like that.
Yeah.
So,
because I think there's like the perspective of the bride feeling pressured to do all these things or spend their money in these ways that you would have experienced, which probably helped you then as a photographer know how to come alongside brides because you were also a bride trying to plan your wedding.
Yeah, and definitely kind of like talking through like how they can budget and kind of pick things that are most important to them. Because we kind of did an approach where we picked like three things that were the main things we were going to invest in. And for us, that was photo, video, and florals. And then in all the other areas, we tried to save a little bit or find ways to do it differently. So that's kind of what I always talk through with my brides and people who are having questions about how do you even find all of these people? How do you afford all of these people?
Yeah.
Things like that.
Yeah. Or like, I know we're not wedding planners, but like if a bride has a specific vision, like what things, because I would say probably photo, video, and floral are like the biggest things that play into the vibe. Like if she has, if the bride has a specific vision, how she can accomplish that vision on a budget.
Yeah.
Probably, well, maybe like dress, florals, and actually maybe venue dress and florals.
Yeah.
Are probably the three biggest. Would you agree, Lindsay? Like those are the three biggest things that would change how maybe not even venue, because it could be photographer, because it could be how that photographer captures the venue. Changes everything.
Yeah, I would say photographer, dress, florals.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's
Because you can make and
Yeah.
it depends on the vibe you want, because like if you're wanting like a super like specific vibe that's like, really dependent on the type of venue, then you can't obviously accomplish, like, say for example, if you're wanting this very like, um like a historic inn kind of vibe, you obviously can't like make that happen in the middle of a field. So I would say there you can't just choose three.
I know. Yeah, it's hard.
No, yeah. That's what you're gonna say. That's what makes it so hard.
Yeah, because there's so many
Yeah.
things that go into it. And it just hurts my heart when I see brides on social media being like so stressed and overwhelmed and just like saying things like, I wish I was just eloping. Like, I don't even want this wedding
I know, that
anymore.
makes me sad too. And I
Yeah.
see that all the time. I'm like, we need to stop joking around about
I
that.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. Like, I think it can be super easy with like, things like TikTok and like Instagram Reels just running rampant. In like for all of these brides, like their explore page is full of, these luxury weddings or like everybody's ideas, and it's like hard to like filter through like what's actually them,
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
know, and what's practical, like truly practical. I
Yeah.
love that you speak into that, Tori, because I think that that's something that's like so unique for their photographer to encourage them in that way. I love that intentionality behind it.
Yeah. I feel like that's a really good word to use from what I'm seeing about how you approach your whole business is like in with intentionality. Is that the whole word?
Yeah.
Intention. Which is like that's literally there's so many other things I wanted to ask you about that all have to do with that. Like one of them is like if you want to share a little bit more about how, and I know it's not always easy because you literally joked about this morning, how you create Instagram captions though, because
Oh, yeah.
because your Instagram captions are beautifully like sometimes they're like poetry reading them, but you also like have clearly spent so much time thinking through these topics that you're putting in your Instagram captions, which is very clear as you write them. But I want to know more about how these ideas come to you and how you put it into a caption with someone's wedding photos. Then.
Yeah. Well, I'm definitely more of a writer than I am a speaker. So that's why the captions work so well for me. But I think because like we initially connected kind of on kind of a feeling about social media and just how people use it and kind of all the noise on there. So like my first and foremost is like if I'm gonna have to be on social media and share things, because truly my business is run on Instagram. It's like 90% of my business, and without it, but if I'm gonna have to share things and gonna have to put something forward, I want it to be as authentic as possible and to just be something of value for people who actually take the time to look at it and read it. So whether it's things that I'm learning on my own or I learned from doing a certain wedding, I try to just like share anything and everything that I feel like could help someone else or encourage someone else. Yeah. I don't know if that's the answer you wanted.
So yeah, do you write them like you have a bride in mind when you're writing it, or you have another photographer in mind, or like both?
It depends. A lot of times I feel like my captions are related to what I end up posting, like the photos and the caption are related. And sometimes I'll have like running notes in my notes app of just like different things that I want to share. Like if I think of it while I'm editing, be like, oh, I would really be able to talk on this when I share these photos eventually, and things like that. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love for you to like talk more into like how you go about like actually consistently posting things that are that deep because I do the similar thing. Like I really want to like have each caption be very intentional and not just I think we've talked about this on this podcast before, but both Cassie and I feel like just putting like the couple's name or like, finally Mr. and Mrs. like that's it. It feels so wrong. And so like doing longer, more intentional Instagram captions. But what I run into all the time is just like actually consistently having the time or mental space to like consistently post like that to that caliber. So I would love to hear like about how you feel like you have like sorted out to like do that consistently. Like do you like draft your posts ahead of time? Like do you take like a bulk Instagram planning day or do you just do it like on the fly like daily?
yeah, I've never been good at like planning my posts at all. Like if anything, I'm only like 3 posts ahead, and
Okay.
I definitely do still do like the short captions sometimes because sometimes you just want to share like the fun photos. But I feel like for me, like when I like look at the photos, when I consider the couples that I worked with, when I consider their wedding day or the session or what have you, like for me, it just like it is that deep. And like I have feelings about it or emotions that I want to share. So I just kind of like write what I feel when I go about sharing the photos. So, like I said, sometimes I'll have certain things in mind that I kind of want to talk on or do for something specific. But I don't know. It definitely does take more time and more effort to post, which sometimes is a hard balance when there's other productive things that I need to do. But kind of like I said, like if it's something that I'm gonna be doing, sometimes it's worth it to take a few extra minutes to just like really think what else can I say that has a little bit more like meaning and intentionality behind it. Kind of maybe like lets my couple know how much I loved working with them and how much I valued their day, or just kind of like share kind words about the people I get to work with.
Mm. Yeah, I do love when you write your captions like I think that's so cool. It's clear sometimes you've been like inspired by a couple or like by a moment that happened in their wedding day and write like almost like a mini blog post about that as you're sharing the photos is what it
Yeah.
feels like. But I feel like I just don't see a lot of photographers taking the time to like emotionally, and you kind of were saying this, like you emotionally attach yourself to their day. Like you're
Yeah.
emotionally invested in their day.
Yeah.
And then that's what's sparking like these caption ideas is because
Mhm.
you feel something from their day too. Like you're not disconnected from it.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of photographers that are disconnected from like the day though. Or they, you know what I mean? But I feel
Yeah.
like that's how you inspire me
Oh.
is like, because it's clear that you have these connections with your clients. You said that's your
Mhm.
favorite part about
Yeah.
weddings. I can see that in like your posts on Instagram because it's so clear like you are so invested in them. Like,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
emotionally.
No, I literally say to myself, like, the greatest heartbreak about being a wedding photographer is like you get to know these couples like for a year, you're like texting back and forth, you're so excited, you do the engagement session, like you build a friendship, and then on their wedding day, like you get to know them even more through like the speeches and their family and knowing all the people around them, and you just get to fall even more in love with them and their story. And then you don't get to talk to them anymore. And of course, you still like stay in contact and stay on social media, but you just don't have an excuse to text them like all the time anymore.
It's so true.
It's like such a heartbreak because I'm like, wait, you mean we're not like best friends anymore? Like,
You like secretly just wait for them to get pregnant and maybe go looking for their baby.
Sure. Now we can talk about photos again. No, I feel like I've like grown to have a crush on a couple before. Like,
Okay.
it's like I just love you guys so much.
No.
Yeah.
yeah, like I don't know if that's a weird thing to say, but like,
Nah.
But it's just part of it. It is heartbreaking. Yeah.
No, yeah.
yeah.
But that just shows how much you are like
Mhm.
you are giving to your clients more than photos. It goes deeper than that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I
What
hope
do you? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
and I hope my clients know too that like it goes beyond just their wedding. Like I'm not done with them once I send them their wedding photos.
Right.
So I hope, yeah. because it might be that way for some other people.
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah.
How are some ways that you like go about like cultivating that relationship with your couples, like leading up to the wedding day, through their engagement shoot? Like, is there specific things that you do to like help like learn deeper information about them?
Yeah, I've been honestly really just fortunate to be working with a lot of couples where we immediately have like a good rapport, have things in common, where it's just very comfortable to communicate. And I try to, get to know as much about them and their story and what's most important and valuable to them. And like when we're working on planning for the wedding and kind of figuring out how we want the day to flow with like the photos and everything like that, I am less worried about like what pictures they want per se and more interested in hearing about like which moments they're most anticipating and which people they're so excited to have next to them and just learn more about like the different relationships and things like that are happening. And just like constant communication. And sometimes I'll be out somewhere and like think of something that I chatted with one of my brides about and be like, hey, saw this and thought of you. Or like the one time I was second shooting at a venue that I was going to be shooting at a couple months later. And I texted the bride and I was like, I'm here today and I'm getting so excited for your day. You know what I mean? Just like kind of thinking of them in that way.
That's really sweet. You're like one of the, you were kind of saying stuff that reminded me like how you approach wedding days, like, because some of the questions you're asking and things you're focusing on are not photo focused more than they're like moment and people and relationship focused.
Yeah.
But that's probably how you've also, because I wanted you to speak about your documentary style approach. Because if I had to think of who I follow or who I know in my world who is good at documentary style, I'd put you like at the freaking top, girl. Like sometimes I look at your photos and I'm like, literally, how did you get this shot? You're like sometimes the way you can do like story tell and do the documentary, but I guess so even all the way before you even show up on a wedding day, you've already like cultivated a relationship with them, it sounds like, of like asking questions and getting to know like these storytelling documentary pieces of a day.
Yeah, so we kind of like talk more through those things. And I try to do as much of the heavy lifting before the wedding as possible and kind of like talk about it an annoying amount beforehand, just so I'm not like bugging them during the day or like clarifying anything or asking questions and taking them out of what they should be doing. Like, I don't want to ask the bride where she wants to go for her first look as she's finishing getting ready. I want to be able to know that or know that she wants me to do that myself and just kind of figure it out. So we kind of talk about like all of the nitty gritty things.
Tori, can you please share like how you go about like the whole documentary style? Because I feel like so many couples are drawn to it now. I just think it captures a day. You capture the day so beautifully. How like practically do you go about the more documentary style on a wedding day?
Yeah. And I don't know, sometimes I feel like I shouldn't even describe myself as a documentary photographer because I certainly still do like the let's have all the bridesmaids get together and like we're gonna, take some pictures. And we kind of set aside time that we have to take pictures. So it's really challenging with documentary style because I think there's a difference between saying like I am a documentary photographer and I like to take a documentary approach. And I would say I like to take the documentary approach because it's like the in between times and just also creating a lot of almost like excess time, I feel like. Because if you're on a really tight schedule, just trying to make sure you get all of the photos in, you're kind of focused on just doing the photos and you're not really leaving much room for anything extra or like different interactions or just space to feel like you can do what you want to do. You know what I mean? So that's kind of the biggest thing is just making sure that there is excess time in the timeline.
Like how much excess? Can you give us like an example of like the way you build that in?
Yeah. It's hard because everyone's a little bit different and it depends on like the size of bridal parties and things like that. But I know when like I first started doing weddings, like for some reason I was under the impression that like if I wasn't spending 30 minutes of taking pictures with the groomsmen, like that was bad. Like I had to like spend X amount of time on these photos to make sure it was good. So now we have like 30 minutes in the schedule for groomsmen where probably I'm only telling them or guiding them with what to do for about 5 to 10 minutes. And then, like, throughout that time, they're doing their own thing. They're kind of goofing off and having fun. Because it's hard because unless you ask the groomsmen to go outside, there's not going to be any photos of the groomsmen going outside. You have to like almost guide and direct to that extent, but also to just not make them feel like they can't do what they want to do or do their own thing.
That's so interesting. Do you feel like you have to prep this mindset into your couples and help explain going into the day, or do a lot of your couples like kind of book you already having that like expectation almost?
I feel like a lot of people will come to me and say, like, we really value like being present and in the moment, and we really enjoy candid photos and things like that. And we kind of talk through then what that actually looks like on a wedding day and kind of the expectations that they have to set. Because really, you have to be just interacting with each other, being around each other. One of the biggest ones is like couples really enjoy those photos at the reception where the couple is kind of together, but they're like doing something else. They're like talking to people, or they're like sitting at their table together, and there's like a cute interaction of the groom like putting his arm around her, or like they're holding hands as they're talking to people. And I'm like, well, if you guys split up and talk to different tables, those photos can't happen. So there's like a little bit of an expectation where like you guys have to stick together. You have to be interacting with each other. You have to kind of show a little bit of that like sweet affection to each other and just kind of like keep nudging each other and things like that. And that's how those photos happen.
Huh. And then are you specifically looking for moments like that? Like, do you know what to look for? Like, what are you looking for?
Yeah.
Let me ask that.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of it is like observation and kind of figuring out like what people are going to do when. Like I'll kind of, and it's so hard to be inconspicuous sometimes because as soon as the person with the camera is standing near you, people are like trying to look around, they're trying to smile, they're trying to like get their friends in for like a group picture. But like I know a lot of times like with people just like talking at dinner tables, like I'll kind of be in an area where I have a good shot of someone, and I'll kind of they'll turn away, and then I know in a couple seconds they'll like turn back and laugh. And it's kind of like knowing those moments and how like conversation flows and things like that at the dinner table at a wedding.
That's so fun. That's actually like not sociology, like psychology.
Yeah.
It's definitely not that deep either, because I'm not like psychoanalyzing your wedding guests, I promise.
You're like, I know when your wedding guests are gonna make their move.
And I think part of it too is that like I'm a super introverted person too. So in social settings in general, I'm usually the person that's just kind of like sitting back and observing and like watching other people. So I've always kind of just been that way, which really lends itself.
That's such a good point, though, that I want all of our listeners to hear. Because I've heard people say introverts can't be photographers. Okay, it's probably a little harder.
Literally who?
But when you have strengths like that, and then you bring that into how you capture a day, that's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Introverts can be wedding photographers.
And it depends on what you need, because if a couple is also completely introverted, like I am not always going to be that photographer that can bring like the really big energy and just be like bouncing off the walls, dancing, shouting, getting people energized. I mean, I have to do a little bit of that, but it's just not me to be like on like that all day. Like a lot of people will kind of tell me like, you're such a nice, calm presence for the day. And I feel like there's value in that too.
Some people kind of need like, that calm presence.
To just kind of like ground everything and not also feel like I'm frazzled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. That's so cool. That's a strength.
That is a strength. I love how much you communicate with your couples beforehand so that like on the wedding day, like you have no questions in your mind, like what they have envisioned, what they want. And they don't have any questions in their mind, like what you need from them and things like that. Like that, I really see the value in that. And I'm sure your couples are just, they feel so taken care of based on that. I love that.
Yeah, and you never want someone to be like disappointed in their wedding photos or like wish you would have gotten a photo that you didn't get. So like I try as much as possible to get as much information from this so I know exactly what I need to be doing. If there's any people I need to focus on, things like that. Like I will take a million pictures of your grandparents if you're lucky enough to have them at your wedding. Like that's a
Yeah.
big one for me. Yeah.
Dang, I love that. Okay, wait, switching gears a little bit. So like, yeah, because documentary style, I think, is one thing that sets your brand apart. The other thing that stands out to me about your brand is this new addition of film and specifically this brand new Super 8. How new is the Super 8 to your business? Like new.
Yeah, I think we got our Super 8 cameras around Christmas time of
Okay.
last year.
Okay.
So just very new for this year.
Okay.
We've been starting to do a little bit with Super 8 video and then also like 35 millimeter film.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, which is so cool. So I want to know like what draws you to film and to the Super 8. What do you love about it? And you can talk a little bit how you're integrating that into your packages and weddings now.
Yeah.
How that changes like how you're capturing weddings.
Yeah. I mean, I think first and like the most practical standpoint is that I see from like a business perspective, like how it will open me up to more clients and just kind of the people who are interested in those kinds of things. Like it just opens up my horizons a little bit further. But then when I also kind of think about like what is so special about a wedding day, like when you look through your parents' wedding album, there's like 40 to 100 pictures. They were all taken like on one camera, probably on film. I mean, my parents have been married a little bit longer, so I don't know if that's everybody, but and there's just something about like the nostalgia of that and just having like such select few memories captured. And I feel like the film kind of mimics that in a way. And similarly with the Super 8, like I'm not a videographer by any means. So it's not going to be a work of art, but it will be a full reel of Super 8 video that you have. And it's kind of just like a little home movie, which you can't beat a home movie.
No.
Yeah.
I've tried to put into words like why film feels so nostalgic. Like what is it about it that just like you can't beat it, you can't compare anything to it.
Yeah. Well, I grew up, we always had like disposable cameras and like I was obsessed with disposable cameras. So we have like bins and bins of just like prints from CVS of like my childhood and pictures that I took or pictures my parents took. So that kind of is always really special. It's just to have like those tangible kind of things too.
Yeah. But I think what you're saying too, like because you have to put more thought and like how long it takes you to like freaking focus a film camera or the Super 8. Like it takes so much time and thought to get, and because you have to be picky and choosy because you only have so much room on a film strip.
Yeah.
So, but then I feel like you see that on the flip side of when you finally get to see the scans or whatever. And I don't know, I feel like knowing behind that moment, you didn't just take 40 digital photos. It was like one photo that took a lot of like patience almost.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love digital for the high speed shutter, making sure no moments are missed and, doing more with movement and things like that. And there's so much to learn with film and I'm really just at the very beginning of it all. But I have just loved kind of seeing, like you said, like those more specific moments that took a little bit more time. And then also just like the colors of film itself. It's hard to replicate that. There's just something about it that I really love and relate with.
I love that.
Speaking of like what typical kind of film do you buy? Like do you have like a go-to like type of film?
I've been trying different ones really just to kind of see what I like the best. I use a lot of like Kodak Portra 400, Kodak Gold. Yeah, I think those are the two main ones that I've been using a lot. And I've just been practicing as much as I can.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's so much to learn. It's so fun. I'm also like trying to like learn a little bit, just like more create for like a creative side of things, because photography like was all of our passion before it was our job. And sometimes it can feel like you lost your passion because it became your job. So like that's what film is for me right now. It's just like this is his passion. Like I don't plan on right now like adding it to my packages. It's like just for me.
Yeah.
But uh,
Yeah.
Yeah, film did get so popular like, for weddings, and I've like wondered what brought it back because even the young generations younger than us, even younger than I mean you two are younger than me, but maybe your generation and younger, like you didn't necessarily grow up with film, but there's still such a like a love for it. Like it, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, my first film camera that I have was actually my mom's. So she loved taking film photos too. So I feel like that's also kind of a way to like
That's so cute,
incorporate that
actually.
into my business.
Aw.
Because she really just only ended up taking pictures as a hobby, but it's really
That's
exciting
cute.
for both of us that I get to do it as more than just a hobby.
Yeah.
oh, I love that.
That's so sweet. That's so sweet.
Wait, your mom's film camera is the one you use?
Yeah.
That's adorable.
What is it?
It's
Tell
just
us.
the Canon AE1 program.
Nice,
Yeah,
nice.
Oh, it's iconic.
I know.
Of course, you
Classic.
had an iconic.
I
Classic.
love that your mom was just had that sitting around. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so sweet.
Yeah.
Is it hard to do the Super 8 or is it pretty simple?
I've only ever done it when I'm also like shooting digital and shooting film, so that part makes it very difficult to balance just
Yeah.
like all of the different mediums. And it can be a little tricky to make sure everything's in focus and you're not shaking too much and things like that. But I think a lot of times when I'm using it, it's kind of an understanding of like this is just kind of fun little moments for the memories. It doesn't have to be pristine and perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, that's sweet. That's a cool reminder, and I love how like it is like meant to be just in the moment and truly organic. You literally cannot go through and adjust the way the Super 8 came out. It came out the way it came out, and that's so freeing sometimes as creatives that like, to produce something that, you know, is like has room for error, personally. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely been fun to help with my creativity too. Because, like you said, like sometimes it can feel a little bit drained when you're constantly using your creative mind and
We dive back into creativity and breath. You know what Tori said to me? She said, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is what I interpreted. You said you haven't reached a point in your business where you felt like super burnt out, like me, Lindsay.
this
Is
year.
that true?
This
This year. Okay, so she's learning. And
Okay.
we're not.
I'm like going backwards. This is not good.
But I thought that's actually like I bring that up because it's actually something that I want to learn from you about.
Yeah, like how do you feel like you balance that?
Saying no.
Yeah, see, that's my problem.
That was, and it's hard too because you like always want to take it and everybody, like, you just want to work with everybody. But I kind of learned that like there's a point where I just can't serve everybody and can't work with everybody because if I'm working from like 0% battery, it's just not good for anybody. Um, yeah, I'm still learning so much too about like my calendar and what works for me. And it was a really big transition from working full time to working part time. And that made a big difference for sure. But just kind of making sure that I have different times. I try not to take sessions on weekends if I can help it. So that my
Yeah.
weekends off are my weekends off.
It's a really good boundary.
Kind of things like that. Yeah. It's still not perfect by any means. But
How many weddings like do you like what's your cap for the year? Like how many? Because I know that it's different for everybody and from one introvert to another, I would love to hear like what your cap is.
yeah. Well, it was kind of crazy because my first year I had like 9 weddings, and that was a good, like, very good start for my first year of weddings. And then the following year I had 24. So that was where I learned the most about like boundaries and just kind of like what works best for me. And I found that 24 was actually like a pretty good number for me when I'm prepared for it and when I like know what to do. So I've kind of been sticking around that number. And I've been really fortunate to have them spread out throughout the year as well, with kind of like busier times and slow times, which I know we don't always get to choose, but that's kind of how it has shaken out for me. So
Yeah, I'm learning that too. Like that's hard because yeah, you can't pick what you're getting inquiries and who actually books you for what dates. But I think I'm learning going into like 2025 that even though spring and fall are busy seasons, like I don't need 6 weddings in April and 6 in October because that just makes those months like miserable. Then you know what I mean? Where I'm like, if I could spread these out, that would be nice. Because I agree, 24 is nice, a nice number if they're like evenly spread throughout the
yeah.
year.
Yeah, and that's kind of like the little like asterisk on that. But
if they're evenly spread.
Yeah, but I think also just having, even if you do have the busier times, making sure that there are slow times. Like I know both of you guys kind of were slow in July, and I was as well. So that has kind of been like a good mid-year reset. So
I'm like becoming a strong advocate for the mid-year reset.
yeah.
Yep, me too. I'm feeling all the things, and I'm actually going to take July off next year. Like maybe.
Do it.
Well, like I said, I had a July off, and then I was like, no, I'm still shooting a wedding and like a few sessions, and I didn't actually really take it off. So yeah, the value in that is there.
Yeah, definitely. I just think that's cool. I feel like we need to hear more from photographers who are not experiencing, because Lindsay and I are talking about that. That's the problem, is that burnout is normalized and it really shouldn't be. So if more photographers are like, yeah, I went through my whole year and I didn't face burnout, like not as a brag, but like as like that's actually really, really healthy.
We do definitely tend to push like hustle culture on social media when we're all posting our to-do lists and our editing queue and everything like that. And it's hard to see that too, especially if you are in a season of burnout and you maybe don't even have the same to-do list. But I've learned that a lot of times the busiest people are not the ones on social media every day.
Yeah.
Because
they don't have time for that.
And sometimes like the quiet work is good work too. So even if you aren't like talking about what you're doing and announcing it, like I feel like overall this year I've been pretty quiet on social media for me since spring. And like I've been doing a lot with film behind the scenes and just like working hard on trying to hone in on that and make sure that can be something valuable I can offer my clients. And I've been sharing when I can, but I don't make it like a priority every morning to share what I'm working on and what my thoughts are and how much I have to do.
Yeah, because that's actually kind of that I think is literally what creates burnout, is like feeling like you have to overshare your own business stuff too.
Yeah, like we're not supposed to like have every single part of our life narrated, you know? Like moments can be moments without them being documented, like as far as everyday life, which is ironic that we're saying this as like wedding photographers, but like for like everyday life, like I don't know. There's the big moments and then the small moments that happen in the mundane. Like they can be beautiful without it being public knowledge.
Yeah. Well, we're also not designed to constantly know what everyone else is doing too. So that definitely feeds into it a lot.
Yes. Because I think that's what feeds into the whole hustle culture. Because like what you're saying, like if you're feeling burnout and you're hustling your butt off, but then you see someone else's to-do list is like more than yours, you think you have to add even more then. Like that's
or what you're doing isn't enough. Yeah.
Like, wait, I'm not doing enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like everyone's limit is different. Everyone's capacity is different. Everyone's calling is different. So
yeah,
crazy.
That's the big one, especially when you see people saying like, I'm fully booked for this month or this year. And it's like, well, does that mean you have 2 projects or do you have 22 projects?
Yes.
Right. Anything.
And that can be so intimidating.
Yeah.
To see someone like, I've been seeing a lot of that since we're in August, July. Ever since July, I was seeing a lot of like, I'm almost fully booked for 2025. And I'm like, oh, I'm not. And then I have to remind myself, like, their bookings might be capping their bookings at 9. Like, I don't know what they capped their bookings at.
Or they could just be saying that to put some pressure on, clients. Like, they, like, who knows? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, I do that sometimes. Be like, oh yeah, 2025 is booking up, which means October 2025 is the only month that's booking up. Like, like
I've definitely done that in emails. If I'm trying to get a client who's ghosting me to like follow up, I might put a little pressure on, should I be airing this out? Like, I got another inquiry.
dirty laundry on the pod.
Yeah, but like we need to be real with each other and real with our clients.
Yeah. Yes.
And I feel like that kind of builds a better relationship anyway.
Yeah, that's the bottom line. Full circle, because that's what we talked about in the beginning.
Yeah.
Is your client relationships being so personal.
Oh.
Yeah. So I do the same thing though. I'm like, just so you know, because I love and care about you, like you're taking a little bit for this date, but there's also a long line of people behind you. So because I love and care about you, this is going fast and you should sign the contract. Like, in a loving way, not a pushy way.
Yeah.
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 Okay, well, we want to kind of end by asking you a couple questions about your business and what's in store so what is like one thing you're working on like improving this year? Did you make like a business goal for yourself in 2024?
Am I supposed to do that?
Oh boy, this is like a pop quiz here.
It's not to be like a written down goal, but like just like there's always something that you're working on improving or changing or focusing on.
Well, you talked about film.
Yeah. I feel like that's kind of been like the big thing for 2024 is just starting to learn that medium. I don't know. I've just been trying to give myself more grace too. And I don't know if that's like a personal / business goal.
I love that though.
Yeah, because I've been experimenting with my editing a little bit, and I've been trying different things with like posting and communicating with people and just like trial and erroring a lot. I've been experimenting with my packages a lot and kind of workshopping that just to kind of see what works best and what kind of aligns with the way I approach weddings. So just still a lot of learning. I'm always learning. I've only been in it for 3 years, so I'm obviously not an expert on anything.
Yeah. I feel the same because you and I got into it the same year. And because I feel like 2021, 2, and 3, even people who have been in the wedding industry for years have said that these last few years, like the industry just keeps changing so drastically from year to year. Like the way that people are having weddings is just so different. So then we have like something like changing your packages to ebb and flow with like what people are even looking for in weddings is definitely like reasonable. Like you have to be doing that a little bit, but then give yourself grace in those changes.
Yeah,
for sure. Everyone needs grace. That's cool.
Everybody needs grace.
Yeah.
What's something exciting that is up and coming for Tori B Photography? Maybe into like next year or
yeah, well, I've been doing a lot more with my husband who has started doing videography, wedding videography.
What? So, that's awesome.
Yeah. So we had our first wedding together last fall, and we've had a couple this year together, and he's doing a lot on his own actually too. But next year it's looking like we'll probably end up with a lot more of like the photo video joint
so cute
wedding. So we're super excited for that and just kind of being able to travel a little bit with that as well.
I feel like that's just so practical, like doing it as a duo. Because
that's that needed to be the topic of this whole interview. How to convince your husband to work with you in the wedding industry.
Honestly, like I don't even remember exactly how it came about, but it definitely was not me. I like considered asking him to like second shoot for me. I was telling Cassidy earlier, like when we were attending a lot of weddings, we had like a little season there. We were honestly kind of terrible wedding guests. Like he would always want to leave like pretty shortly after dinner. And I was like, no way would you like be able to do a wedding because it's the whole thing plus 4 hours before the ceremony. And I don't really remember exactly like why he decided he thought he could do this, but he tagged along with me to a couple engagement sessions and tagged along to a couple weddings and really just enjoyed a lot of it is like the storytelling part, which I feel like goes hand in hand with a lot of what I believe in, which is awesome for our clients. So it's been really cool watching him just like be creative and get excited about things that I get excited about
That's
and
so
just
cute.
learn how to be a storyteller.
That's so cute, actually.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's so fun. Oh, that's great.
Yeah. No, that makes sense though. Like about him turning from wedding guest to like wedding vendor almost. Because Kaden and I just attended a wedding as guests, which was our first time in over a year and a half, where we were like both just guests at a wedding, not in the wedding, not working the wedding, like just being guests. But it was like a whole completely different experience. Like I actually forgotten what it's like to be a guest at a wedding. Very different experience. So I can almost maybe, I still love weddings, but I can almost maybe understand his perspective of like attending one versus like when you're so much more involved with the day and you see the fullness of the story and you're like attached to like the whole story versus like just showing up, sitting through a ceremony, eating food. I actually kind of get how that's like,
Yeah, that's definitely different for sure. It's a different perspective.
Yeah. It is.
Yeah, I would much rather like capture a wedding than be a guest at a wedding. Like if like a friend was like, I just want you to be a guest, I don't want you to photograph it. I'm like, actually, I would prefer to photograph it, not for the money, but just for the like, it's so much like more in-depth learning about the story and being able to like experience like the full circle of things.
Yeah.
You know?
Because I feel like the wedding we just attended, I barely saw the bride and the groom.
Yep.
Like they did their rounds during dinner, and we definitely talked to them then for like 2 minutes. And I like saw her from afar like the whole day. But yeah, I just felt like I'm like, I don't even know how your day is going for you. Like I haven't heard, you know what I mean? So I think it's because I'm so used to the photographer's perspective.
Yeah. Like, how are you doing? Like, all day long. Have you had snacks? Have you gone to the bathroom? Do you have water? You know, like, you can't ask her those questions. What are you talking about? Is it all you ever envisioned and more? Like,
no, I wanted to ask her that. I'm like, have you been soaking it in?
Yeah.
Yep. Take the time to just sit and like embrace everything.
That's so funny.
Oh, the things that wedding photographers think of. How we have.
It has changed. Or like that joke about when you're driving and you're like, it's just changed the way you drive around a neighborhood now because you're always just thinking of lighting, flowers, aesthetics. You know what I mean? Like your brain just is wired different.
We can never go back. Never go back.
Well, thank you, Tori, for joining us on our podcast as a guest.
Thank you for having me.
We loved having you. This was so insightful. I
it was so nice like hearing your like the deep heart you have behind your business. It's very inspiring.
No,
and
really.
it's fun to watch. Yeah.
For real.
Yeah, like your most recent posts on Instagram have been freaking fire, and I cannot wait to continue watching the magic you make.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Changing the wedding industry.
Yes.
one Instagram post at a time.
Exactly.
One deep Instagram caption at a time.
Yeah.
That should be your slogan.
Well, thanks everyone for listening, and we'll hear you again. I always want to say see you again, but we won't see you. But you'll hear us again next week.
Hear you there.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm gonna end this. Bye, Lindsay.